smashing through the lies, destroying narratives, and breaking through the mainstream media programming. This is Tomorrow's America. Hello and welcome to Tomorrow's America. My name is William Donahue. Sorry about that. Today, we're going to be talking about the U.S. elections. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Iran war. We're going to be talking about the fact that the Treasury came out and said that the U.S. is insolvent and much more. So before we do that, please like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also, just a quick update. Rich isn't here today. We're going to be trying to put out a couple shows a week and really ramp it up a little bit. And we appreciate everyone's support. But if you guys could like and share these videos, it's super important for us to grow in popularity and everything like that. So, the first thing that I want to talk about the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court is looking to overturn mail-in ballots. They want to shut down mail-in ballots that arrive late after the polls are already closed on voting day. We've seen it in the past few elections. For 2-3 weeks, even after the election, they're still counting votes. They were still receiving votes after the elections took place and counting them. So now the Supreme Court is going to look into the legality of that. And I want to pull up the article here for you so that you can see what I'm reading here. Read along with me. The Supreme Court on Monday appeared ready to overturn a Mississippi law that allows mail-in ballots to be counted as long as they are postmarked by and then received within 5 business days of Election Day. So I don't know how secure you could rely on any election that allows for that. But they go on to say, because more than a dozen states have similar laws, the court's ruling, which is expected by late June or early July, could have significant implications for federal elections, beginning as soon as November. So I hope that it does have significant implications, because this is one way that we could shore up false fraudulent elections. Now I have another article while we're on the topic of elections, and this is having to do with the SAVE Act. So apparently the Senate was supposed to vote on the SAVE Act, and I guess they postponed voting on it. There we go. So, when will Senate vote on the SAVE Act, ID requirements, and status? The Save America Act may take a seat on the back burner as the Senate turns to push a DHS funding bill to end the partial government shutdown that is causing an escalating TSA nightmare with the presence of ICE agents at airports across the country. Here's what to know about the Save America Act status today and what else is in the controversial voter ID bill. Okay, apparently you have to subscribe to see this article. But yeah, they basically put it on the back burner, and a lot of times these things are used as like political leverage. So they'll tack on the SAVE Act to some other bill and try and bundle it all together to get a good deal, but then the other side will bundle it a different way, and then they have to kind of battle to agree with it, and they could use it as leverage over the president, like, oh yeah, well, how about if we push forward this vote? Would that help you to put forward this bill, or things like that to change your stance or whatever? So we see that a lot, and that tends to be the reason why we never see anything good that we want passed go through in Congress, because they use it as leverage, and they're also paid off to vote a certain way, and it's very little that we actually end up getting what we want. So uh, the Iran war, Israel and the U.S. strike gas facilities in Iran's Isfahan, possibly triggering retaliation against the Gulf states. So just go through this summary real quick. Uh, Israel and U.S. strike gas pipeline distribution station in Iran. Trump announces productive talks with Iran and postpones military strikes for 5 days. So Trump is saying that he's having these talks. Now, that summary that I just read, Trump says that they're having good talks, and that they're working on a ceasefire or whatever else he's saying. But hold on, I want to get this article up here, because according to um, the New York Times, in this article, which is taking a second to pull up, but according to the New York Times, Trump says he's talking with Iran. Iran says he's not. Here's why. The president has domestic and international political motivations for touting negotiations to the end of the war. Iran has similar ones to denying discussions. So there's a lot of propaganda when it comes to these wars, from both sides. So who knows whether Trump's having peace talks with Iran, or whether he's, talking to the wall nowadays based on the decisions that he's making. That's always a possibility. I don't know. I don't know what the case is. My assumption and my conclusion, based on everything that happened, points to that Trump's not having talks with Iran and that he's lying to us. Just because, you know, one, Iran doesn't want to talk to us and doesn't want to talk to Israel. Israel has bombed negotiators. Israel has bombed during negotiations. Israel has violated ceasefires repeatedly. So my assumption would be that Iran does not want to talk to President Trump. So back to the summary. Iran's foreign ministry and parliament speaker says no talks have happened after Trump said speaking with top person in Iran, says he will just keep bombing if Iran talks fail. Trump says Hormuz will be jointly controlled by Russia and Pakistan, if they step up as potential mediators and engage with Tehran. U.S. officials have told CBS News that there were at least a dozen underwater mines throughout the vital passageway, citing U.S. intelligence. Israel's not seeking an imminent end to the war and plans to continue operations while avoiding energy assets. So they're going to keep bombing. They're just going to avoid the energy. And if anyone saw my show on Monday, I said that we avoided a massive crisis. we threatened Iran's energy, and then they threatened Qatar and Saudi Arabia and Israel, some of their civilian infrastructure. So it almost spiraled into this huge thing. So now Israel's saying that they will avoid Iran's energy, which is a very, very good thing. Um, an IEA executive director warns of 1970s level oil shock. No country will be immune to the effects of this crisis if it continues to go in this direction. And Russia mediates calls with Tehran. So that is a little summary of basically our war and what we've been doing and what surrounds it. Now there's another summary that kind of comes from a different angle, and that is this one. This summary of events is based on oil stocks and the fake talks that we've been having with Iran. I'm just going to call them fake talks because I don't believe that they actually happened. So the U.S. Seeks a 1 month ceasefire with a framework to end the war. Iran's not going to agree to that because they know that we're moving Marines in right now, and we would just shuffle around military assets over the course of 1 month. We got off to the war on the wrong footing. So that's like saying in a boxing match, like, hold on, time out, and then getting your feet set square and being like, all right, now I'm ready. And now you're lined up and you can dodge it. But if you started with your feet crossed, with no base, no balance, you're going to get toppled over. And that's kind of what's been happening. So I doubt Iran will agree to a ceasefire. The Wall Street Journal and Fox are reporting that 3,000 elite Army airborne soldiers to be ordered to the Middle East. Axios says U.S. awaits Iran response to proposed Thursday peace talks. Trump says Iran has been destroyed militarily. So, is there back channel diplomacy or is there just skepticism? Abbas Argachi reportedly signaled openness to negotiations with the U.S. via envoy Steve Witkoff, but Israel has appeared cool on deal prospects or off ramp. Israel just wants to keep fighting, and that's what we said from the beginning. This war is, to quote Michael Yan, based on routes and resources, routes, trade routes, and resources, and ideology are three things that make up wars. It's always at least two of those three. So this war is definitely based on routes and resources, but for all three parties, the US, Israel, and Iran, there's an ideology aspect, and a big player in this is the ideology aspect and the fact that there's three differing ideologies involved. So I don't know, but Israel takes their ideology very seriously, and they're not looking for an off ramp to this conflict. So there's a heavy exchange of fire and testing of red lines. Iran continues missile and drone waves targeting Israel and U.S. bases amid report of overnight airstrike on military and gas infrastructure near Isfahan. Iran reshuffles its security leadership, appointing Mohammed Bagher Zoldar. He's a former IRGC commander, and he replaced the assassinated Ali Laranjani. These names are super hard to pronounce, but basically, if you've been paying attention, uh, that's what's happening. That's the most recent update of what's been going on with the war. So, also with this war that's been going on, all right, I'm going to put this article into a little perspective for people before I show it to you. So, another thing that's been happening with this war, Israel likes to instigate conflicts or start them outright, uh, and then say, like, I read an article the other day, and it was like, uh, Israel's year-long bombing campaign of Lebanon uh, spiraled into war the other day when Houthi rebels struck Israel in some way. So literally, the article was saying that Israel bombed for a whole year in Lebanon, and the one time Hezbollah, or yeah, Hezbollah, the one time that Hezbollah returned fire to Israel, that was the beginning of the war. They like to play victim. So Israel started this war. They struck Iran first, and now Israel, who ripped up the UN Charter last year, 1 year ago, they ripped up the UN Charter on the floor of the UN. Now they want to utilize the UN Charter to go to the UN and beg for help and beg for intervention in this conflict that they created. So they're going to try and play the victim here. The problem is they don't have any moral high ground. They don't have an October 7th scenario to go off of and say that this war is justified and Israel has the right to defend themselves and all this stuff that they said during the war against Gaza. And also, Israeli settlers are right now occupying and conquering the West Bank. That was always a red line for every U.S. president, and now it's just happening, and everyone's turning a blind eye to it right now. So, uh, here's another article, and this I saved to the end because it's none of this war makes sense. None of what's going on makes any sense. And I don't think that it makes sense to President Trump. This article, um, you know, people, politics are weird the way that they work. And there's always a leaker and there's always someone talking, to news outlets, and it's a shady business. But I tend to believe this person. So inside Trump's daily video montage briefing on the Iran war, it says each day since the start of the war, U.S. military officials compile a video update for President Donald Trump that shows a video of the biggest and most successful strikes on Iranian targets over the previous 48 hours. Three current U.S. officials and former U.S. official said. The daily montage typically runs for about 2 minutes, sometimes longer. The officials said one described each daily video as a series of clips of stuff blowing up. The highlight reel of the U.S. Central Command bombing Iranian equipment and military sites isn't the only briefing Trump gets about the war. He's also updated through conversations with top military and intelligence advisors, foreign leaders, and news reports, the officials said. So basically, people were bringing up Donald Trump's, bombing videos and saying that, and people within his administration were saying that he might be getting skewed or altered information. And I believe that because every time he comes out, he says, "We won the war. We're bombing this. This is the biggest military success in history. He says all these things, and then you see an article that we're sending 2,000 troops to Iran. So which one is it? Did we win the war, or do we need to send 2,000 troops there? Because both things can't be true at the same time unless we're sending 2,000 troops there to go fortify the new land that we just conquered. It doesn't make any sense. We're sending troops to Karg Island to continue fighting, and, you know, meanwhile, Trump's over here declaring victory. So let's go off on a little unplanned tangent here. I want to look at Iran. I want to pull up a map for you and show you some things about Iran that I think are pretty important. Okay. It is important because if you haven't seen it, then you don't know, exactly what they're talking about when they mention these, Qatar or other countries like that. So I want to show everyone a couple things about Iran that are pretty important. Okay. And then in 1 second here, it'll be pulled up. Okay. So this is um this is Iran. This is Qatar, the UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan. All these countries, this whole area, even Pakistan, is involved in this conflict right now in a bad way. This is the Strait of Hormuz through here, and it borders Iran's southern border. So have a look at this here. I wish that this was a topographical map because right here is just miles and miles and miles and miles of mountains. Very mountainous. So if you wanna militarily enter Iran somewhere, and my computer is very slow, I apologize. But if you want to militarily enter Iran somewhere, where would you go, and how would you get your tanks through all these canyons and all these mountains? How would you advance through the country, through all these mountains, and what would be the game plan? How would you invade Iran? It seems very, very, very difficult. Uh, and Tehran is up here. So I don't know what kind of allies we have up in here, but these are not NATO countries. Turkey is split on the issue. Lebanon is fighting with Israel. Israel is hitting all these countries, Iran, Iraq. All the missiles are going over Iraq, so they're constantly in fear of this conflict. Afghanistan and Pakistan have um, rebel groups within them that are fighting. This is some of the fighting is taking place near India here. A lot of ships are being sunk. So everyone is involved in this conflict, and it's not good. It's not a good thing. I mean, this is literally the center, and China and Russia. Now here's a bigger kind of picture of what's going on. Russia and China are both backing Iran. The US and some European countries, and then little Israel are trying to fight, this huge war. Also, in the South China Sea, down here in Indonesia, there's already gas shortages, uh, a lot going on there. China's putting pressure on Taiwan, and Taiwan is rationing their gas supplies. So, I mean, Taiwan is going to have a choice to make. Either they capitulate to China or they starve, a lot of their people and probably eventually end up falling to China anyway. So, this is a huge deal. Not good for any country, not good for anywhere on earth. This whole conflict has the potential to spiral if Turkey gets involved. We'll see. We'll see if Donald Trump can make the deal. Okay, so okay, so next article here, the U.S. Treasury Secretary just declared that the U.S. is insolvent. That means like literally bankrupt. Like we don't have enough money to operate. When Trump was the president, when he first got into office, we were $17 trillion in debt. Now we're almost $40 trillion in debt. So the Treasury just declared the U.S. involvement insolvent. The media missed it. No one's talking about it. No one's talking about the fact that our country is literally belly up right now. The U.S. government is insolvent. That's not hyperbole. It is the conclusion drawn directly from the Treasury Department's own consolidated financial statements for fiscal year 2025. And my computer just went down. Okay, so I do have one more article here that I wanted to show you guys, but yeah, it's all going not good. It's all going bad. Um, actually, I think we should do this every once in a while on the show here and just show the U.S. debt clock. The U.S. debt clock is a great tool for people to pay attention to real time what is going on in the country with our finances. So let me get this up on the screen for you guys. Okay, U.S. debt clock. I don't know why this is. Wait. Okay, so U.S. debt clock. If we scroll over here to the left side, $39 trillion. And do you see how fast it's just running? Uh, that's just our money going down the drain. Uh, Here, let me put this full screen, and we'll just zoom around here. Tariff revenue. So apparently, we're making a lot of money on tariffs. Federal spending. See, there's a U.S. national debt, and then there's unfunded debt slash interest, U.S. total debt. So here it says 40 trillion, but here, what would this be? Thousands, millions, billions, 107 trillion, the U.S. total debt. And look at the interest. The interest on this loan is almost 9%. It looks like 6 trillion dollars. Uh, and this is a great website. If you go and hover over some of these different sections here, there's little pop-ups that tell you about certain things. State debt. So US federal tax revenue, we're making 5 trillion and we owe 39 trillion. And I don't even think you cancel that out. Also, um, precious metals reserves, mineral reserves, uh, real estate, land, the stock market. Uh, it looks like everything's kind of going up here, but it's probably going up in coordination with the interest that we're paying. So it's not really helping us out at all. So that's the U.S. debt clock, and I think it's I think it's a good thing for everyone to look at that debt clock and check it out. And then I have one more article here. This is about Facebook and Google. So Facebook and Google apparently were both found liable for some kind of a lawsuit that took place. Now, how important this is on the grand scheme of things, it's probably not all that important. And um, the penalty that they had to pay was really not a significant penalty either. So, jury finds both Meta and Google liable in landmark social media trial in downtown LA, awarding 3 million in damages, 70% to be paid by Google, 30 or by Meta, 30% to be paid by Google. So, you know, it's a couple $1 million for companies that make exuberant amounts of money. So they get a little penalty for their products being addicting, and then they get to go on existing, you know, the same way that they always do. And we get to get addicted to our phones, and they get to program it with little things that make you, get engaged. You go to look up uh, how to cook something for dinner, and next thing you know, 40 minutes later, you're still scrolling through TikTok. It happens to everyone. They are being held liable, but it's $3 million to trick people into using their phones constantly and constantly using your service by making it addicting is a small price to pay based on the profit that they've made. So that's really all I have for you today. I hope that everyone enjoyed the show. Like we say every week, Christ is King. Get in your Bibles, read. If you need a starting point, start with the Gospels, and a thing that I like to focus on, because Jesus was the fulfillment of the law. So you could read the New Testament, which is the new contract, the new agreement that God made with humanity. And you could look at how Jesus fulfilled the law of the Old Testament. So that Old Testament no longer applies. Now we're in the new covenant, and Jesus fulfilled those laws and created a new set of standards to live by, which you could find examples of throughout the book of Acts, Romans, Colossians, all the books of the or the New Testament. Those people were literally, Jesus came to earth and essentially trained them up to become the continuers of his religion that he was establishing. So these people are examples of what you'd want to lean towards and how you'd want to structure your life. Uh, even it says if you find God before you find a woman, you should stay single, and all these different things. A lot of things that we don't follow nowadays, and a lot of things that are important parts. Why would Jesus teach his apostles to teach a certain thing if not for us to later follow to mirror the examples that were set for us? And that's a big thing. So get into the New Testament. You know, if you need to, if you're saved and you are secure, become a prayer warrior and go out and help people and be genuine. Try and reach the person where they are. A lot of people, if you see this picture, that's Jesus when Peter fell through the water. Jesus reached down and gave him a hand and pulled him out of the water. A lot of people are like Peter. They're doubting their faith and they just need somebody to reach down and pull them up. So if you can be that for somebody, be that for that person, stand in the gap for that person and do what you can. And if you are new to this thing, don't feel any stress, don't feel any pressure. Ask God what you can do and he will show you. And yeah, that's all I have. So please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment and let me know what you think about today's show. And um, other than that, just have a great night and pray for this country, pray for America, pray for